Welcome everybody to the Hippo DeFi Kingdoms YouTube channel, your one-stop shop for everything DeFi Kingdoms. Okay, so this video does come a little bit late. I do apologize, I was a bit unwell over the past few days. But anyway, this video is going to finally sort my random crackpot conspiracy theories about how to get to Generation 12. Spoiler alert, I was wrong. And incidentally, how to get to Generations 13 and 14. It's also going to cover a little bit about health and mana growth for your hero as they level up, as well as some information about the odds for profession quests, more specifically for foraging and fishing at this point. Okay, so let's dive right in. If you saw my last couple of videos about getting to Generation 12, I had this crackpot conspiracy theory that it was something potentially to do with the cosmetics of the characters, because we've seen all of these cosmetic features and we don't really know what the heck they are or what effect they have on the game. So I came up with some theories. I found a few different traits as far as the head, the back, and the hair that only seem to occur from Generation 1. I found some odd matches and I thought, this could be something interesting. So then what I did was I actually contacted Hubert again. Hubert, by the way, is the game developer who's in charge of pretty much most of the game mechanics, and he told me I was venturing into some dark alleyways, so I was off on a bit of a tangent. Disappointing. So then a couple of days later, found something interesting. I randomly found that I had two of these heroes and they both had one summon left. And so usually the next generation has one less summon than the minimum of either pair of heroes that create a new hero. But it turned out that my summon, this fine looking dragoon fellow, had one summon. And I thought, hang on, there's an extra summon. Maybe the answer is here. So I went on to a new theory. My new theory was that it might be something to do with the generation gap in these heroes. One of the parent heroes was Gen 1, the other was Gen 2. That was wrong, unfortunately. Disappointing. I also thought it might have something to do with them being elite offspring only. Well, it's to do with that, but that's not the whole truth. So let's dive into what Hubert told me. So I explained my theory. Hello there, I have a new theory. I don't know how accurate it is. Let's hear it, Hippo. How am I doing? One extra summon occurs on the next generation when two advanced make an elite based on something like a generation difference, no clue. And that's what happened when I made a dragoon. He then replied that when did this occur? This occurred when there was one generation difference between parents. Could you give an example of when exactly? And I said on the final summon, and that was the answer. Good job. So basically on the final summon of one of the heroes, when they do advance, you do get a new hero with 1 out of 1 summon. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then logically, based on that theory, if you had a Generation 10 with only 1 summon left, the next hero is going to be a Generation 11 with 1 summon left. So here's my table that I just made for you guys just as a visual guide, if that helps. I know visual cues help me. Now, if I do have one of the heroes who has 1 summon left out of however many, it could be up to 10 if you're a Gen 1, or a lot less if you're up to a Gen 10. Now, if that hero has 1 summon left and pairs with another hero, doesn't really matter how many summons or how low their generation is, you will then get a new hero advanced with 1 extra summon and 1 extra generation. Likewise, that hero summons with another one, you get to an elite class, 1 out of 1 summon left, and if you're lucky enough with that one as well to get to the exalted class, good for you, then you will have a very high generation. So the way I calculated it is according to this table. So this table was found in one of the Mr. Zipper articles. I highly recommend you meet him. He's got a lot of great stuff. Now, if you have an advanced, if you have 2 basics, the odds of creating an advanced class is 15%. If you have 2 advanceds, the odds of creating an elite class is 14.3%. And if you have 2 elite classes, the odds of them together summoning an exalted class, i.e. Dread Knight at the moment, is 9%. The odds go down quite a bit. Now, using my high school maths and a calculator, it seemed that if you have a Generation 10 who has 1 summon left, according to this chart, you'll have a maximum of 1 summon costing 106 jewel, not cheap. Now, if you have that one, and then they happen to be fortunate enough to create an advanced, that gives you 1 summon, the elite gives you 1 summon, the exalt gives you 1 summon, and then you have 1 exalted with another summon, that will get you to Generation 11 with the advanced 1 summon, Generation 12, 1 summon, Generation 13, Exalted, 1 summon. Who can then do 1 more summon to get to Gen 14? The odds of that are 0.19305%, or just a bit less likely than a 1 in 500 chance. So if you can do that, good for you. So yeah, I was way off base, I do apologize, but we had fun, didn't we? Anyway, my follow-up questions to Hubert were, what is the point of having a Gen 12 to Gen 14 character? And then, is there anything that happens, because I was holding out all hope, if you do create a special character using the Gen 1 traits, such as the butterfly head, the antennae, and the wings, or creating a demon or Valkyrie-looking cosmetic pair? And Hubert said there might be some special achievements. I'm assuming these are for Gens 12 to 14 because they are quite hard to pull off. The actual pairs may not be that hard. I'm just a cheapskate and haven't tried yet. Alrighty, so the next one was... So after this, having found this sort of pattern of the matching traits such as the butterfly wings and antennae, I did ask Hubert, does this actually make any difference in the game for any reason? And basically he said no, they're mostly cosmetic, but we may add some features that care about things like that. They won't affect combat though. So who knows, they may have some sort of benefit for professions, or it might just be an appearance thing, kind of like shinies. Incidentally, I do think they would look really cool if they were paired up, and I figure if you're going to play the game, why not look good in the process? So moving on. Health and mana points. They work like so. Each hero has a class-specific set of chances to determine whether or not they get a small, regular, or large boost to their hit points. The small boost here provides 10 pure health, plus the vitality halved, rounded down. The regular boost provides double that, and the large boost provides 3 times that. Incidentally, just looking at the first line, each hero has a class-specific set of chances to determine these odds. I would presume, although I could be wrong, that the more tankish classes like the Paladin and the Knight would be more likely to get the larger boost, whereas the more squishy, glass cannon-y classes that you would normally have in the RPG settings, such as the Wizard or the Priest, they may have a much lower odds of getting a good boost. And that's modulated by vitality, which is usually low in those cases anyway. So, moving on to mana points. Similarly, they have another equation just here, although it is a little bit more complicated. You've got the raw numbers for small to large of 2, 5, and 9 respectively, as well as a multiplier which is based on intelligence and wisdom. Incidentally, it looks like it plays about 3 parts of intelligence to 2 parts of wisdom as far as actually improving this multiplier. So both are good, but intelligence is very slightly better, purely for the purpose of getting more health points and mana points. So I then asked the next question, does a vitality bonus from level 2, would this be twice as effective as a vitality bonus at level 50? I kind of worded it confusingly, but basically my question was, the earlier you up these stats, do you get more cumulative gains? And the answer to that was yes. Incidentally, brief segue. What Frisky Fox found a while back is that when we had the meditation circle first come out in beta and everybody advanced to level 2 as soon as possible, all of those advancements were actually based on these small boosts automatically, and that was the mistake. So what they then did is they produced these things called Atonement Crystals, which you can use once per hero anytime in order to make sure that they get a large boost. So, just as a reference, these are the formulas again. So basically, it would make more sense to me that whenever you do decide to use these Atonement Crystals, if you are lucky enough to have gotten one because you actually leveled a hero during the beta section where there was a bit of a bug and they were only small boosts, you would likely be better to use these Atonement Crystals as late as possible, because these are based on stats, and the more you level, the higher the stats you have. So there is a relative cumulative boost in the health and mana across each level as you level up higher and higher, because your base stats improve, if that makes sense. So basically, use these Atonement Crystals as late as possible. You'll have absolutely no need to use them initially until combat comes out, because they only affect your health and mana points, and they play absolutely no bearing on your professions. So be patient, folks. Don't use them yet. I'll try not to as well. Now, just to illustrate a bit more of an example, going back to these health and mana boost, gains. So I've got one character here, Willie Woodsnow. He is a pure paladin. He bopped his head and now he thinks he is an archer. So here he is in the forest and he likes to forage for a living. Now he has a relatively high health level. He is level 2 and he's got 206 health, and he's also got a vitality of 11, which is not too bad, but he's got a mana pool of 51, which is pretty low. So he would get a relatively higher gain per level for health because he's got high vitality, and as you can see here, he's got a higher score. Now this base score is actually, I don't know if it's in this slide or if it's in a later slide, these base scores of health and mana for a hero at level 1, they are entirely based on the primary class. So he is a paladin primary and paladin secondary, but these stats are based on being a paladin as a main class. So let's say he was a paladin and wizard, he would have the same initial stats, whereas if he was a wizard paladin, so wizard primary, he would have much lower health and much higher mana points. So that's just something to consider. On the other hand, the friend here, Free the Brush Force, who hits with about as much strength as a brush, strength of 5, her health is quite low, so a base of 100, she's at level 1, but she's got a base mana score of 75, pretty high. So this will increase relatively higher because she's a wizard based on these base metrics as well as her wisdom and vitality. And yeah, in the next slide, basically Hubert says that yes, if you think health and mana are worth making your focus, then that would be a strategy. So that strategy would be to level vitality or wisdom and intelligence in order to get high health and mana. So it would make sense that if you are using a character for the purposes of combat, which by the way, it's quite a while away, but it's probably a good idea to start at least thinking about right now. But in order to think of the long-term future of your heroes, it's probably a good idea when you level up to start prioritizing one or many of vitality, wisdom, and intelligence, so that you do get the most cumulative gains for your hero statistics, so that when they finally do start combat, you're positioned best so that they have high health and or mana, depending on what you think the character might do. So let's say I've got a knight, and he's maybe a legendary or a mythic knight. So I think, yes, he's very strong, he's going to be a great tank. I'm probably going to want to do the primary boost for vitality above all costs for him. However, if it was a more mediocre knight and he's just more of a miner, but you think he might not have much utility in combat, and he's got a mining specialty profession, you might want to ignore vitality completely and just focus on strength and endurance to make him as good a miner as he can be. Or you might want to just take a bit of a hybrid approach and hedge your bets because you're not quite sure yet. Similarly, with mana points, if I had a really good, say, sage, summoner, priest, or wizard, I'd probably really think about focusing the primary and secondary stats on probably both of intelligence and wisdom. If these do match the professions, all the better. But yeah, so I'd go down that line of thinking when I'm leveling up my heroes. Okay, moving on to the next question. So these questions were more to do with the profession statistics. So Eddie asked a question about why is there not a huge white paper with all the small specifics available to read? He would like to ask about the getting nothing from quest rewards. So apparently there is a 50% odds chance of getting nothing, and there's something mentioned about these odds being distributed to the other drops as you improve your skills. So this was a little bit cryptic, and so I'll explain in a minute. Hubert said if you get to 100 skill, as well as a sum total of at least 300 on the relevant stats relevant to the profession, now in this case I think it mainly refers to foraging and fishing, then that 50% will be fully distributed. So let me explain what that means here. Originally, Raspberry Swirl in Discord posted these drop rates for foraging and fishing. So in one quest, you have a 50% odds of getting nothing, and then the other 50% is distributed amongst all of these other items, including the rarest, which is the eggs at the bottom. Now, as you level up, as you get your skill points, and if you get the sum total of the relevant stats, so for foraging that would be dexterity and intelligence, for fishing that would be agility and luck, as you level up the skills just by doing the quest, as well as the stats by leveling up your character, you get closer to these 50% odds going to 0, and then the odds being distributed to the other classes, so the other, items. So that is apparently not an even distribution. So that's what Eddie said. You said the distribution isn't even. So what that means is Possibly, you may have very slightly incrementally increasing odds of getting the rare items compared to getting, say, a bloater, which makes sense, although we all do love bloaters. So in summary, for the findings, we found that generations 12 to 14 are technically possible. You gain an extra summon on your next hero when they advance a tier, assuming your previous heroes only had, at least one of them only had one summon left. You'll always get a minimum of one summon when you advance a tier, and that's actually the route to get to generation 14. So technically, if you had a generation 10 with one summon left, and you were fortunate enough with that one summon to pair with another hero to get an advanced tier, then you can get to tier 12. And if you do that again twice in a row with the same hero, very unlikely, less than 1 in 500 odds chance of that happening, you could potentially get to a tier 14, in which case Hubert will give you some sort of reward or achievement. Now, as far as health and mana, the gains per level are as a result of the stats for vitality for health and intelligence more so than wisdom, 3:2 ratio for mana points. You can also have the odds of getting a small, medium, or large gain. It's basically a 1:2:3 ratio of the gains for the small, the medium, and the large, and the odds for each vary somehow depending on class. That is not yet specified. So if you do want to level up your hero for combat purposes, I'm presuming, and to get a high level of health and vitality, it's good to level these stats as early as possible so you get the maximum cumulative gains. The next summary is that for the drop rates for fishing and foraging, they max out when you get your character's skill level to 100 and the combined stat total to 300. Now, the relevant stats for fishing are agility and luck, and for foraging they are dexterity and intelligence. So when you get to this point, you will never fail a quest, i.e. you'll never get nothing in a drop, and there is a relatively higher gain. If you think of these 50% odds of fail going towards any other item, there's a relatively higher gain of getting some rarer items. That does include eggs. It does not include rune drops. However, to the best of my knowledge, you do have 5 times higher odds of getting a rune drop if your profession specialty matches the profession that you're performing. So you've got a fishing specialty if you're a fisher, if you're doing a fishing quest, and so on. So the last thing is, if you airdrop these Atonement Crystals, which you would have gotten if you leveled up a character while the meditation circle was in the beta stage, you'll get one of these because all the level 2s went up with only a small gain, not a medium or a large gain. That was a bug. So as a reward, we're getting these Atonement Crystals. Please save these Atonement Crystals until your later levels. Remember that health and mana may play absolutely no bearing on the competency of your heroes for profession quests. They'll only play a role for combat, and that's going to be a while away. And even then, you're probably going to want to hang on to them for as long as possible. Try to be patient because you'll get relatively higher gains later on. And you can only use them once a hero, so be careful. Alright, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it so much. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. And please leave any comments if you have any thoughts or any ideas for any next content, which I'm happy to produce. So yeah, just let me know and take care, everybody. Have a great morning, evening, or night time. Goodbye.